Sometimes we suffer because we even anticipate the conclusion that something is bad or good. Many problems are not even problems, and you are terrified. The moment that happens, you lose your balance. What kind of anxiety is this that doesn't allow us to live? I know that in the lives of those of you who watch us, finding this time is an even greater challenge. I meet people. I know people who wake up at 4 in the morning and will get home at 10 at night. Is it cruel? With this urgency, with this unbridled way that we are living, we are building. Early deaths? We are anticipating our death, my people. So many neuroses, depression, panic syndrome, bipolarity. Anxiety itself is an illness, a very common illness in our days. My people, life will always ask us to be calm. Calm down, let it be. Remembering from this beautiful poem by the great Renato Teixeira, that we all carry the gift. It is a gift received as if it were a seed that was given to us. The gift of being happy. Now, music also raises some questions that help us reach the cultivation of this happiness. It is a poem by someone who looks at what he has experienced and how if. Exercises, the necessary forgiveness, redemption, the remission of everything that was not worth it, applying a new posture of life. I walk slowly because I was in a hurry. I wear this smile because I cried too much. A lesson that remains, after perhaps not having understood the rules of time. Interesting, my people, how we suffer because we are not capable of understanding time. How are we today experts in anxiety? And anxiety is nothing other than an inability to deal with time. An anxious person is one who is living in the present moment, a concern that suddenly belongs to tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, to next month or even to a future that we do not know. What is needed? We are never in the time that we are. Or rather, we are never in the time that we have. It is impressive, or we are busy with the past, mulling over what we did not do or what we did wrong. Or are we in the future, worried about what will be? And the present moment, which is the only possible matter to be experienced. The only time that truly belongs, because the past, it is recorded in us as memory, but you can no longer interfere in the past. And the future, this matter that also does not belong to us, which is a possibility, because no one guarantees us that we will have it. It can only be effectively prepared if we are aware of what is being delivered today into our hands. Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus, which speaks of the time for each thing. It is Ecclesiasticus. That's right? The Ecclesiasticus, there is a beautiful passage that says, here under heaven, there is a time for everything. A time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to weep, a time to rejoice. And us, we already know this. I've seen it. It's even become a cliche for us. But why isn't this knowledge enough to change our behavior? Yes, then you come to the conclusion that knowing some things is not enough. It is necessary for knowledge, for what we know, to actually enter our veins. It occurs like blood within us. It irrigates our mind, our mentality, our way of thinking, of feeling, and it transforms into attitude. Our relationship with time, it makes us sick. Father, how can we solve this? I'm also learning. Something that has worked very well for me. It's helping me a lot to live lately. It's precisely at the moment when I realize that the other person's rush is harming my life. I block, I hold back. Do I set limits? Yes, today. If I have to respond in a hurry, then I don't want to. If I have to be in a hurry, if I don't have a right to reflect. Of course, many things are urgent. But when you realize that you need to exercise your right to choose, don't give it up. Don't let someone else's rush become yours. We're all getting sick because of this rush. The other day we had a great friend of mine, Monica Lippiani, who is from Belo Horizonte, works in decoration, a person I admire a lot, not only for the great talent she has as a decorator, but above all for the human being that she is, my sister. I have great admiration for the honesty with which Monica deals with her feelings, how transparent she is, how easy it is for you to know what she feels, if she likes or doesn't like it. She is certainly a human being. To whom Jesus said, I would say the same. He said to the one who was sitting under the tree, Behold a man I do not find myself. Falsehood. She made a woman in whom I do not find falsehood. whose feelings are all very visible. And she wanted to spend a few days at my house. She was very tired. And Luisa, who is her daughter, who manages a company, who also has immense competence, who is giving a great deal of encouragement so that Monica can leave. It is not to be so with so many weights on, and she went to spend a few days at my house. I was very tired. And Luisa, who is her daughter, who manages a company, who is also immensely competent, who is already giving Monica a huge boost so she can leave, it's not to be so burdened with so many weights on her shoulders. She answered a call from Luisa. I could tell she lost her peace after that call. And she spent the whole morning with that situation, bitter, and it was work-related issues. Anyway, when it was late afternoon, Luisa said that everything was resolved because it was a misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding was already settled between Monica's client and the person who was renting the party house. Then she sat down relieved, and then I looked at her and said, "What happened?" She told me the whole process. And what I found interesting was the following. If Monica didn't have such ease of communication, if she wasn't so easily found by the other person's haste, that whole problem would have been solved without her knowing. Why didn't she intervene to solve the problem? It was a problem that arose, and that naturally found a solution because it wasn't a problem. She was the misunderstanding. But why do we have such an ease of judging others all the time? Because of our haste, because of our anxiety. Clara Luisa did it with malice. Luisa wanted to help resolve the situation there, her daughter. But if suddenly Luisa had a different understanding of the issue, would she? I don't think I'll talk about this with my mother now. I'll wait for things to get better. But how can we have such ease if Luisa didn't have such ease of communicating with her mother? Maybe it would just be a phone call at the end of the day to find out how things were going. And she only tells us about it. She has no idea what we went through here today. But everything is fine now. Would it be different? So Monica wasted the opportunity to rest one of those days that were reserved for rest. Why the rush of the other, and of so many others? There was a space to be deposited on her lap. Maybe by telling this little story you, who have nothing to do with you, can also identify with it. How many problems have you been involved in? Did you lose your peace? Did you lose your concentration? Disharmonize you. Acid became the organism of the business of saying. That discharge of bad things inside you for a situation that if you had been a little hidden, everything would have been resolved without you even knowing about it. Yes, the ease with which we send a message to each other, and sometimes even the cruelty of the time we choose to send it. Cruel. Sometimes you have a subject you can perfectly wait for the day to dawn, but the pig spirit that it surrounds us, that stays there with the Vulcan by our side. It touches your finger, and you write that subject that you know will keep you awake. Or that criticism, that bitter word from the other person, and you send it? How many times, for family reasons? I went there too. You know that little glance you take at your cell phone when you get up in the middle of the night to pee? That's the devil's work. Don't do that anymore. Before, there was that excuse that was to pray for the time, right? Then I remember that one day. There was a message from a relative there. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to pee. Zeno, I looked here. My friend, no, I wish. It wasn't who it is. Whoever died, I wish. It's a little worse. You die. We see you there and bury you. The problem, when it's that causes you discomfort of hurt, of disrespect, of resentment. Then the person dies in another way. For you, what is worse? How many times do we disrespect each other like this? How many times have I done this to people I love? Instead of waiting for the day to dawn, my finger itches. Can't you control your anger? You want to know? I'm going to send it now. All because we're in a hurry. All because we don't know how to deal with the present moment. All because we're full of false urgency, which is making us very, very sick. I've been talking a lot about this. It's getting harder and harder to have an inner life these days, because an inner life is a turning inward. It's a look that goes in the opposite direction. We're always turned outward from what we usually do, worried about what people are saying, even more so now, in these times when every day is something that displeases us. Every day is news that it makes us even more discouraged. How are we going to live an inner life if we're encouraged to stay outward all the time? We don't even know how to be silent anymore. I don't know if you experience this, if there's something that I personally identify with people's anxiety, because I really like showing music to others, to my friends. If you have this habit, everything that I discover that's beautiful like this, that I didn't know about yet, I make a point of showing it. And in 1 month, the person's anxiety level when I show them a song. There are people who have sensitivity. There are people who are sensitive enough to listen to the music. And after the song ends, do they ask you questions? There are people who aren't. In the commercial introduction, who is it? Then the person's voice comes in, our voice. It seems like so-so. They're not listening to the music. Wow, how beautiful. Huh? Where is it? Who is this person? They're not paying attention to what you're showing. I don't know if we have an anxiety to show off, to please, to say that we like it. The other day, I caught myself red-handed. I sent a song that was 5 minutes long, and boom, WhatsApp, I sent it. It's the little blue one, you know? I saw right away that the one who viewed it. It didn't take a minute here, beautiful. It didn't arrive. It didn't even listen to the introduction, and it already showed up. What kind of anxiety is this that doesn't allow us to live? And I have some friends who, when I show them the song, I'm already like today. Let's see how they'll react. I'm already like that annoying old man, you know? That is just to test it out. And I really admire it when I realize that the person knew how to live the experience that I propose, because I like to live that experience. If the person is going to show me something that they consider special, I think it is absolutely respectful of me to see and hear what the other person is showing me in silence, without interfering. But it is anxiety. That's how we are. Regarding what we eat, do you know Anna Maria Braga's program, where she eats something and takes her time with the food so she can say she liked it? But usually she always passes under my mother, makes that noise, Blonde Jose screams. That's not how it works. And I also see the anxiety of some of her guests. Bad, because the thing about Al, how delicious. We haven't tasted it yet, and we are already giving our opinion. And the food? It needs to be spread around in your mouth. All your taste buds have to be in action for you to really know if you liked it or not. It may be bitter in the end. So don't be in a hurry to say that you liked it, because you might have to eat that food until the end without having liked it because you anticipated it and said that you only saw the first notes of the flavor. Did you only notice the first notes of that flavor and already anticipated it in saying that you liked it? Calm down. We are anxious about people. Sometimes the other person has just arrived. Have you ever classified yourself as anti-Patty? You haven't even lived with them. That hasty knowledge, you know? That's so exhausting. It deprives us so much because it's the inability to live the time you're taking it easy, letting the person arrive. If you don't like them later, you still have a right not to like them. But give them the opportunity to find out, because you might end up at a loss. They might be a lovely person who you're deprived of convincing, getting to know, because you were quick to classify them as unpleasant. Sometimes we suffer because we even anticipate the conclusion that it's bad or good. So many problems aren't even problems. And you're terrified. When that happens, you already lose your balance because you didn't have the sensitivity, the slowness to walk in the direction of what's happening and see if it really is a problem. As an example I gave, from that day when Monica was resting at my house and got involved in a problem, that wasn't even a problem. It was just an evil. Understood. But because of our rush to not understand what is happening, we have already created a whole plot, absolutely unnecessary. We release toxins that age us, that make us sick, because we did not have serenity to wait and realize what is really happening. My people, life will always ask us to be calm. In fact, the flavor of life can only be perceived when we are patient with life. Otherwise, we do not feel the flavor. We eat without feeling the flavor. The other day, I really like to watch those programs, those documentaries, about people who need to lose weight. Is it called Deadly Kilos? I do not know if it is on the net of what seems to be passing. Have you seen that? Those people who have weight loss goals? And I keep watching. That a good part of those people who are going through the process of re-educating their eating habits. These people don't chew. So there's that. moment when they still weigh 300 kilos. What is their diet? And then, all of them already in layers, in a position to stand up. Those plates of fried chicken, chicken to be cooked, and potatoes, and I don't know what. It's amazing how those people don't chew. You can see by how quickly they swallow. This is already a symptom of anxiety, right? Why does anxiety make us fat? Because we eat much more than we need. Some people, without control of this, they end up taking out on food. They unload all their anxiety on food. Pay attention. How many times do you chew the food that you put in your mouth? And you'll be able to know if you are anxious or not. The food, my friends, and it needs to be crushed. Today, he is giving me a lesson on the function of feats of food that you put in your mouth. And you'll be able to know if you're anxious or not. The food, my friends, it needs to be crushed. Today, he's giving me a lesson on the function of teeth. Some crush, some tear, others are. They crush, tear, break. How'd I serve this? I'll ask him later. The function of teeth is impressive because they all work together. But sometimes we swallow without land cattle, so the 23 teeth are useless. They are only inside the mouth, but they work themselves. Why didn't you allow your body to perform the function necessary for good digestion? We are in a hurry. It's the so-called eating without sitting down. Some people eat while walking. I remember when I still lived in my apartment there in Tallbait. After I went to the countryside, I got better. Since it was just me there, I had a habit. Tekka would leave my food there on the no stove. I had a habit of taking the plate. He keeps walking around the house. I lost the ritual of eating, and the faster I finished, the better, because I needed to get rid of the need to eat. I had to get on the computer. I had to do this. I had to do it here. Look at this horrible thing. How do you deal with the food that makes you alive? Like a moment when you need to get rid of it quickly. It's the same thing that I had with some friends who worked at the bank. That was cruel. It was a 15-minute lunch break. I'm exaggerating. I'm not telling you a lie. No. If it was a fact, the people who worked at the bank who were very close to me at that time are still my friends, not with the same closeness that he has. Because life has changed for everyone. The good doesn't change, but we hardly see each other anymore. Back then, these people had 15 minutes for lunch. And it wasn't 15 minutes with the plate in hand, right? 15 minutes for you to go out, eat, and come back. Can you imagine what that's like? That's normal for us. It's been normal in our heads to eat in a hurry because food is an obstacle to the need to eat. It's become an obstacle for us because we need time for many other things and we start to neglect the time we need for ourselves, including sleep. We are so negligent about our sleep, about our rest. People who don't allow themselves to rest. That cell phone in hand, day and night, and go to bed. The cell phone goes with it. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You know you're going to have to get up early the next day and you can't turn that unfortunate thing off because it's terrible anxiety. Yes, it's a ritual. The person goes to Instagram, then they go to Facebook, then they go to Twitter, then they check their emails. It took them half an hour to do all of this. Then, instead of stopping, turn it off, and no, they start again. Did they go to Instagram again? They went to Facebook. There, like on Facebook, there's a lot of confusion. They must have been there for at least 20 minutes, watching the fights that happen. Then they go to Twitter again. They check their emails again to see if they haven't arrived. And so, my friends, they compulsively visit all the social networks they have. And they still have time to visit the 47 groups and send little hearts, little hands, and landscapes. And good morning and good night, good morning, all the greetings in the world, all the little bears that jump, all the little flowers that cry and that are happy. All this all the time, because we need to do it. We need to send, we need. There's a lot that we have to do. It is very good. A day that we have to say. It's a lot of good night that we have to say. It's a lot of answers that we have to offer. We're all getting sick because of the excess, because of the immense needs that we create, which, although they're cruel and absolutely unfavorable to us, we continue to keep within our agenda. Christian was talking here. He was saying that Camila, because she's a consultant She's a manager, right? So she has a great need to talk to a lot of people. And he was saying that sometimes when she finishes giving everyone an answer, because she's very quick on WhatsApp, she turns off the Wi-Fi immediately. Because if she doesn't, people don't stop, guys. They don't stop talking. If you send a little flower to end, she sends you a little heart again. Then you don't know if you need to stop at the little heart. If you should send +1 little thing, then send a good little mouth, sending a little heart through your mouth. A little face, sending a little heart through your mouth. Then she will respond, no, it's never ending. Then you feel like deleting everything to see if it works. Because I personally have it. On my birthday, for example, I'm still here reading about 200 messages that I haven't seen. I've been seeing them little by little and thanking them and responding. But I have the feeling that I have a package on my back when I look at that cell phone. Pastor, she's a manager, right? So she has a great need to talk to a lot of people. And he was saying that sometimes, when she finishes giving everyone an answer, that she's very quick on WhatsApp, she immediately turns off the Wi-Fi. Because if she doesn't, people won't stop. They won't stop talking. If you send a little flower to end it, she'll send you a little heart again. Then you don't know if you need to stop at the little heart. If you should send +1 little thing, then send a good little mouth, sending a little heart through your mouth. A little face, sending a little heart through your mouth. Then she'll respond, no, that's never ending. Then you feel like deleting everything to see if. Because I personally have it. On my birthday, for example, I'm still here reading about 200 messages that I haven't seen. I've been reading them little by little and thanking them and replying. But I have the feeling that I have a package on my back when I look at that cell phone full of messages to be replied to. So, but you are. Christ was asking what happened to us, right? Why are we like this? I was reflecting with him here at no interval that this change that we're experiencing, it's very recent. Very recent. So, it's still difficult to assess what the consequences of all this will be in our lives, because we are the protagonists of the change. Our parents didn't live like this. We who are in our 40s and 30s, until I was in my early 20s, our parents didn't live with devices glued to their hands day and night. I see here, for example, the people on Twitter, oh, Darlene, you're saying, depending on what I'm going to do, I don't turn on my phone all day, because it really gets in the way. Look, what a heroic attitude. Manage it more and more. I only use it if I don't have anything urgent to do. The first is Twitter. You see, Father? It's just like Darlene. I know this creature well. She's much more evolved than the rest of us. Does she have one? A sensitivity, a beautiful soul. I had the good fortune of getting to know her better on a pilgrimage she made with me to the Holy Land. I could see how much this girl already has. A worldview, a soul much more evolved than mine. That's why you can turn off my daughter. But I was seeing a bunch of people here who hadn't even started a program properly. They were already here. Wonderful programs are for me. Anxiety is so great that you don't even wait for things to happen to give your opinion. Maristela Oliveira saying, look, I'm going to warn you, get up at dawn, but don't even go near your cell phone. Makes you lose sleep. Is that right? It really does. But we are the protagonists of this type of behavior. I say again, our parents didn't live like this. And I remember when I gave an interview here for TV Vanguardia, which is global here in the Paraíba Valley, to Patricia Falco, who is a girl who works there at the newspaper today. She was even one of the main ones. The thing is that he worked directly with Evaristo Costa when he still presented the newspaper today. Patricia coordinated the work, this survey of people who were active on social media. So were there pictures like that? Every day there was one, and I was one of the days in the newspaper today. They were talking about my work as a priest. How? Someone who has a lot of followers on the internet. Today, I have 1.8 million followers on social media. Putting them all together, that's a lot of people, isn't it? And she told me that she had a meeting with the president of Google, and that he had a very interesting reflection with her. She wanted to know from him, what would be the consequences of this for us, of being constantly connected? He made 11 statements. Very interesting. He said, "Look, I personally look at this present moment in the same way. It's oil for us, living in this unbridled way, without yet knowing the consequences of what this will cause in our lives. I remember when the episode of when bacon was discovered in the United States, how bacon was incorporated into the American diet at that time. And I remember, and it was easy for me to identify this, because I remember the first time I tasted bacon. Do you remember, Christian, that although I was raised with pork, that part of the meat that was in the can? At home, our food was always cooked in lard, but the first time I tasted bacon was something. It was something out of the ordinary. It was in a sandwich, one of those standards, right? In those sandwich trailers, I had the feeling that I had discovered the eighth wonder of the universe. Imagine what it was like when bacon was created and commercialized, and people didn't know the consequences. Because today we know that the big problem with the saturated fat moon is when it is mixed with carbohydrates, right? They say that fat alone is not harmful. But when we mix fats with carbohydrates, then this would cause a generation of sick people soon after. And he believed that this use, also without criteria, of devices that are in our hands, with radiation of people who sleep with the devices, is this device very close to us all the time in our pocket. Sometimes the person walks around all day with a cell phone in their pocket. Of course this will have consequences. Of course it does. And while we will look at think no, and we will conclude many diseases, many neuroses. He even spoke to Patricia about it, anxiety itself. We are saying here, anxiety is one of them. But what about the countless mental illnesses that are emerging, which are of our time? I myself am. What is panic syndrome? An inability to deal with life. Now, do you think this is overnight? No. These are things that are not being resolved. A way of living that is not healthy, that accumulates and suddenly overflows. So, depression, panic syndrome, bipolarity are illnesses. They are very common illnesses in our days. And it is impressive how, of course, there may be chemical causes for these illnesses, but we also cannot remove the great burden that the way of living places, the opening that a way of living can create for these illnesses to afflict us. I have no doubt that it was my way of living. Of course, some events that I cannot control, that triggered everything that I experienced in me. A great difficulty, a great suffering. And I was still talking to Bia that the big problem with priests and pastors is that we are culturally constructed as men who do not have problems. Did someone create this at some point? This mentality that for us to be in the pulpits giving the Sunday sermon, we need to be men who do not have problems, who do not face conflicts. And isn't it just priests? No. It seems that anyone who has a leadership role does not have the right to get sick. They do not have the right to be fragile. How many religious sisters also face the problem of depression, anguish, anxiety, panic syndrome, bipolar disorder, and cannot even expose it publicly because we have a naive view, and, in fact, a very cruel one. Of what? Because we have God in our hearts. This type of problem cannot happen to us. Who said that it does not? I may very well have God in my heart and not be loose enough to live in a healthy way. Yes, I may very well be a man of God and not be making the right choices. My own health, the health of my body. We, among us, priests, we have time. That is our justification. To do some physical activity. And when we do, we are criticized. Father, it is too difficult. Poor thing. If you do physical activity, then it is not a priest's place. No. How many times have I heard this at the gym? The gym is not a place for priests. Then they are deprived of doing physical activity, of taking care of their health. And then they eat irregularly. They become very, very, very careless about their own physical health. Yes, it is complicated, because spiritual health also includes the health of the body. These are complementary knowledges. What I know about spiritual life, I should know to the same extent about my physical life. They cannot be separated if we cannot dissociate these knowledges. They are complementary. It is in the physical that you experience spiritual life. It is in the body that you have the spiritual experience. It is the body that prays. It is the body that fasts. It is the body that makes sacrifices. So is that right? But only then can we understand. If not, naively, we think of everything separately. We don't have time, he says again, to eat properly, and all justified by overwork. People, and I said this in the interview, a relationship like this cannot be fair. I have time for everyone. As a priest, I need to meet the countless demands of my parish, and I can't take half an hour, 40 minutes of my time to take care of my body. This math isn't fair. This math isn't fair. The sisters, the nuns, and the convents are even more deprived. Yes, they are very deprived. Deprived of having health, longing a healthier life. Starting with the food in the seminaries, I remember we didn't have any nutritional education. No one told us. What was it necessary to eat? A balance of this and that, because it is a combination of everything that makes us healthy. We learn little by little. Mom, many places say this discipline doesn't exist, because one thing is, did you eat any fatty food? Once or twice. Another thing is to eat that every day. So, going through a process of re-education and understanding time as well. The time we have, how we organize it. Because before, in the seminaries, we still had a lot of external work. That really was heavy work. We woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and when it was 8 o'clock at night, and didn't get disgusting. I couldn't watch any Journal Nacional because our life was so intense. But now we are sitting down more and more. We are more and more, always dealing with time. Why? Because I need it and fast. If not, it will be fairer for us to do it. Suddenly, our schedule, which is 100%, would be at least 80 by 120. We would have the right to organize, to have a moment of reflection, a moment of prayer, a moment of personal care. I know that in the lives of you who watch us, finding this time is an even greater challenge. I meet people. I know people who wake up at 4 in the morning, will get home at 10 at night. Is it cruel? There should be this sensitivity from those who employ us, right? From those who are giving us the opportunity to work. I really admire the companies that are becoming aware of this, creating spaces for rest for their employees within the companies, and also spaces for physical activity for their employees. The conscience of the entrepreneur should be increasingly evolved to realize that with this urgency, with this unbridled way that we are living, we are building. Early deaths? We are anticipating our death, my people. It is true that many of us we die before our time. Father, more ideas. Where's God in the story? It's just that not a single hair on our head falls without him allowing it. Okay, understand that God's permission, preceding all your choices, is wiser. He is much more mature than you can imagine. A God who looks at every strand of hair I give him. For example, poor thing, he doesn't do anything else. His hair grows and falls out all the time. Can you imagine? He's so stressed out just because of my hair loss. Understand this with more maturity. Understand. A concern and an attention that precedes your choices. God is there, as the instance of all care. His desire for us is that we have life and life in abundance. Then, my dear, he slaps your ass and says, are you going to live? And he gives us freedom to choose. And he will cry with us when we don't have enough freedom to choose the best. And he will lament with us when he realizes that the structures in which we are not favorable to our growth. And he will try to interfere in every way, through people he sent us to enlighten us, to tell us through our conscience, which is a place where he speaks deeply to us. Change your life, creature. Look at yourself. Look at the life you are living. It is not healthy. Have a little more self-love, this God whispering in our ear all the time. And sometimes, through information from this life, we have social networks. Personally, I like to follow people who talk about health. Why? Because these are opportunities that I have to hear what God has to tell me about the care that I need to take with my life. You think that I don't make mistakes all the time, just because I don't have a perception of what needs to be done, right? But is there something to be done? I want to be enlightened. I want to understand this care of God that precedes me in everything, and then my correspondence, this care with the choices that I make. It's never too late for us to change our behavior. It's never too late to look at what's wrong in us. It's never too late for us to move the pieces of the game. It's not fair. It's not fair. I say again, what do? with ourselves and with others, with this excess of demand. If we're in a hurry, calm down a little. When you have the opportunity to be in front of a little sun, don't be so anxious to take pictures. Forget your cell phone. Contemplate. Rest your mind from so much information. The world will continue the same way, whether you know what's going on or not. Interfere in what you can actually interfere. That announces behavior. In your way of being, pour the Almighty God over us, over our hearts. That encourages, that transforms, that modifies. He who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.